Okay, we're back. We had a couple of videos on a more intellectual understanding of the no ego state. In this video called What It Feels Like, I hope will give you a more bodily understanding of what the no ego state feels like. First of all, we're starting off on a really happy, positive note, and we'll end on a somewhat more depressing note because it is not all exactly a bed of roses. But we start off with this wonderful news. Another aspect of this state is the blossoming of creativity that is born of the fullness of this state and its need for expression. With all its freedom, new depths, and insight, the soul has a new eye on the world and no timidity with regard to expressing it. But if the state is original, creative, and innovative, the problem lies in finding an adequate outlet. For myself, I never found any creative satisfaction, but then I was not a particularly creative or talented individual to begin with. If anything, my talent was botching everything to which I put my hand while managing to muddle through and, by the grace of God, landing on my feet. But since I was not allowed an ounce of creative success, I am not the one to expand on the creative aspects of the state, yet I know creativity is a part of the unitive life, deriving from the inner benefits of the state, and not necessarily from any native talent. So I'm guessing what she means by inner benefits there is that there was probably 95% of our thoughts are egotistical on some level, so there's all that energy being driving that and being driven by that, and then when all that energy is suddenly freed up, 95% of your mental energy is suddenly freed up, well, of course you're going to have more energy for, so that's the natural benefits. Another characteristic of what it feels like is that virtue is a habit. You see the right thing to do, and you automatically, without thinking about it, do it. No experience in life has the depths of this center. It is a depth that belongs to God alone. It is domain that remains untouchable to all outside. At this level, only God can touch or affect us. When living at this level becomes a habit of soul, when nothing can draw us out, then there is no division remaining. All is conformed to this inner silence. The entire house is quiet, and the unifying process is over. We are now ready to move on. So that quote was not actually about the habit of virtue, but about living habitually in the depths of one's soul. Another thing that it feels like, as I mentioned before, when you look within, you no longer see just yourself, you see God as well, so it's a we or us consciousness. Altogether, this new state of consciousness is such that when we reflect on ourself or look inward, we always encounter God, which means there has been a shift from ordinary self-consciousness to a type of God consciousness, in which the object of consciousness is no longer just self, but also God. I always thought of this new type of we or us consciousness because I knew that God and I were an unbeatable team. And though we never won a thing, we at least took the losses together. And in the end, when we lost everything, we even disappeared together. Here's the quote about habitual virtue. Virtue does not arise from feelings, but from the strength at the center which needs no feeling to act. During the transformation, a shift occurred whereby the acts are now either spontaneous, that is, they bypass both feeling and knowing, or arise from knowledge and no longer from feelings. St. John of the Cross compares this to the knowledge possessed by the angels who judge perfectly the things that give sorrow without the feelings of sorrow, and, quote, exercise the works of mercy without the feelings of compassion, end quote. One characteristic of the unitive state that kind of goes along with the courage and being authentic and true to oneself and standing upright, God has not fashioned a wimp. Some transformed souls will be likable and others will not. But one thing they have in common is that they do not care if they are liked or not. These souls, we are told, execute their works without thought of what others will say or how their works will appear. And the saint adds, few spiritual persons reach such daring and determination in their works. Stanza 29. Few, that is, dare to be themselves without putting on roles or playing social games. What the deified soul is, then, is a soul that is authentic, whole, natural, spontaneous, fearless, and strongly itself in every event and situation. God has not fashioned a wimp, weasel, or robot. I love that quote. So now there are some kind of difficult, challenging aspects to being in the unitive state, and that's that most other people are not. And so other people can't really relate to you, you can't really relate to them, and that's pretty hard. That he is powerless to give the vision is his suffering. It is a terrible thing to live your whole life intensely with God and not be able to convey God to others. There is anguish in this that finds no relief in external works. In fact, the inability to find adequate expression for the interior vision is the type of suffering peculiar to this state. For nothing but sharing the vision is satisfying, and since nobody wants the vision, one must bear it alone, and therein lies the suffering. And we'll conclude that basically that suffering is an essential, important, not accidental part of the spiritual journey. The pierced heart is not any single thing, rather it is a combination of the inability to share what matters most in our life, the rejection of the best in ourselves, the continuous giving without receiving, a sensitive and loyal heart that has been taken for granted, stepped on, denied, betrayed, pierced. It is a heart that is kept so much to itself or within itself that it breaks from the sheer weight of this burden. In a word, it is a heart that can find no true lasting satisfaction in this world, and thus longs for the vision with ever-growing intensity. But the marvel of this heart is that the heavier the burden, the clearer the vision. And so true did I find this, I can say, a broken heart is the pathway to vision. There is no problem here with lack of conformity to God's will, no breakdown of union or pain at the center. This is no dark night. Yet the dying human heart is a deep wound to the self, a death blow that reaches into the roots of human existence. We hear about the suffering heart of Christ and his mother and do not realize it is the reality of a dying self, a tragedy by human standards, yet a divine undoing, a call to surrender the human heart to God. So that's what it feels like. Next, a video on the proper attitude to have. Take care.